Hello everybody and welcome to the Awesomenauts League with Bets. My name is SlowWolf and I'm going to be your caster for this series between Team Boss and Team IWTN, or Team Insert Waiting Name here. Take your pick. In Week 1, Team Boss came out on top of Team Nerf in a 2-0 series, cementing a very strong lead in league points. Team Insert Waiting Name here, unfortunately, is coming in as a pitch hitter, so we have no idea what they are capable of, but that means that they're capable of anything, which means that this game could go either way, this series could go either way, and I'm excited to take a look. So let's go ahead, let's get this party started in 3, 2, 1, go! So as you guys can see, we are on Sorona, which some other people say is the most balanced map. I personally disagree, I like it a bit better, but this map is huge. It is massive. It is arguably one of the biggest maps. If it wasn't for the fact that there was only one turret yet you had to beat for the second row of turrets, this game would take forever. On the red team, we've got Cannoli on the Frog, we've got Kirby Derby on the Swiggins, and we got Bowser Slave on Coco. On the blue team, we got Big Man Barbs on Yuri, we've got Savong on Durple, and finally we've got Kurt on Jotun Skoldir. Look at that icy beard. So slow. Anywho, both teams setting up to take a very interesting approach to this game. Very different approaches, actually. Though both obviously very interesting. Cannoli going in for a bit of harassment. He got punched. He goes a dash through Kurt. Savong tries to come in with a nuke, but it doesn't hit anything. Kurt's going in for a couple punches. He lands a third punch. Cannoli in a bit of trouble. He's now caught between two very large big man sandwiches and he gets punched and mined to death. Poor guy. So first blood going to Big Man Barbs with the mines. Well played. Kurt taking some damage. Savong dealing some damage, tossing out a nuke already. Kirby Derby looking to just toss him off as Bowser Slave goes ahead and puts out this ball here. Really smart use of ball, actually, to just get creeps while you're still down here and farming. That's really wise with Coco. That's a good little extended technique for you folks out there. Savong getting caught out by the anchor drop, so he's just going to sit there and deal with it for the next couple of seconds. Kurt looking for some punches. Savong taking a lightning ball to the face. He then goes into Durple turret mode. Kurt coming in. He's going to take a bunch of damage. He's going to go down to a really well-placed lightning ball after everything is said and done. And Durple gets away. So red team finally taking the middle and causing a small lull in the action as Kurt comes back down from the drop pod. So, as I was saying, both teams taking a very different approach. Big Man Barb's getting anchor drop, though. So we're going to have to wait on that particular bit of information, and he's going to be perfectly fine. Kirby Derby just laughing it off. As I was saying, both teams taking a very different approach to this game. On the red team, we've got a Frog, we've got a Swiggins, and we've got a Coco. Those are three very fast, very mobile, ganking characters. Coco in particular can also pick off fleeing knots, which makes her a very potent addition to any team that really wants to get some kills. On the other side of things, we've got a very defensive team between Yuri, Durple, and Skoldir. Now, Skoldir can throw people into mines and can throw people into Durple traps. That's a very good way to set things up. In fact, the only part of this that wasn't APL 1 tournament winning lineup was the instead of a Yuri, they had a Coco in that particular lineup for the winners of that particular tournament. I always refer back to that because that was Skoldir's golden moment. That showed that Skoldir was actually good, and I'm still very proud of seeing that happen. So, as I was saying, blue team coming out of the gates with a very defensive team, relying on their Skoldir to do a lot of the work. Kurt almost getting eaten by the worm there. That was a little bit sketchy for a second. Oh, Swiggins doing a little bit of air dancing with the Durple. He is being very wise about this trap. He's just floating over it. That's an often underused ability I've seen in my games with Swiggins in them. He just do that nearly enough. Cannoli getting some punches. He's going to get away just fine, though. Bowser Slave maybe getting caught on the wrong side of too many meat-manny, characters, but she's going to be perfectly fine. Kurt tossing a couple punches. Durple going to get harassed a little bit by the aerial Swiggins, and things are going to go right back to normal. So with the changes to Swiggins right now is doing exactly what I would expect most Swiggins to do. Just fly around in range mode and wait for a good time to use his anchor drop. Kurt looking for a couple punches. Bowser Slave almost went down when I was looking at other things. Savong getting pretty badly hurt. He might get picked off by Cannoli. Cannoli coming in. He's going to do the 25 damage dash, and he goes down. Big Man Barb's going to run away as well, because now that 3v1 advantage currently here, because Kurt had to run away. Kurt being all the way upstairs, unable to help his Yuri friend, so Yuri runs away. And the red goes right back to taking the middle. As it stands right now, the solar is extremely even. No one's really ahead of the other, though the red team is slightly behind on their Swiggins. Let's find out if solar items maybe have something to do with that, or at least I'll bring up the items. But Kurt taking a bunch of damage. He gets anchored, grappled, and dropped. He's going to be perfectly fine, though. He's 1/3 HP, and so's Big Man Barbs, but both of them still able to defend. Although Coco says otherwise, Lightning Ball's Big Man Barbs, and Tvong does not quite land his nuke. So, Tvong, unfortunately, unable to really land any kills or anything, but setting up traps and doing what Derp will do anyway. And shooting backwards. That's one of the funniest little replay glitches in this game. It's just the turret firing backwards. It's pretty entertaining. So, looking at the items, yeah, there are solar items on one team and no solar items on the other. That could explain why there is a solar difference, although Bowser Slave taking a little bit of damage from that nuke. 65 damage nukes coming out, so that's pretty potent. The other thing that Derple's got going on on him right now is the deployment pads. Whenever he comes out of his siege mode, he knocks people back, so that's pretty powerful. I believe it's knock in or out, actually. Cannoli taking a little bit of damage from mines as he deals duels with the Yuri really in the bottom area. And Blue takes back the middle very handily. So that's one of the advantages to having big beefy characters like Derple and Skoldir, is that you can just kind of take the middle when you like. Oh, Swiggins taking a little bit of damage. No nuke coming out on him, though. And then Swiggins turns the fight back on his opponents. Just floats above them and starts shooting ink all over the place. So Swiggins is playing very much like a ranged zoning character right now, just because he really can't dash in. If he tries to dash in, he's going to get caught out. So I'd expect him to go very much for a left-click build. He gets caught out by a trap, but he's going to be otherwise fine. Down here, not much happening. Some earthquakes. Kurt taking a grapple, but no anchor drop to the face is going to happen today. And again, Blue taking the middle because they just have those kinds of characters. Nuke coming out. It's not going to hit anything, unfortunately. Tvong just... Oh, that was really close. Kirby Derby just getting away from that. But Tvong's nuke just not able to hit anything, unfortunately. It was slightly late. That's the problem with trying to land Derple nukes, is that because of that time delay on them, it makes it very difficult. Bowser Slave taking a punch to the face. Kurt doing really well with just being annoying and zoning with those punches as best as he can. Even without range fist, he's doing a really good job of it. He does have stun punch, though, which allows him to do quite a bit in terms of just disabling and starting and ending fights whenever he feels like. Just as long as he lands that third punch, it turns the fight in his favor pretty hard. Oh, throw coming out, but Kirby Derby's just going to hit the bounce pad, and so is Cannoli, so no one's really going to care. Cannoli now sitting on Hammer Pants, NATO, and Dash. So that's going to be a lot of burst if he can manage to land it. And against this team, he can land it on 2/3 of it fairly easily. Yuri being the only one that's difficult to land Hammer Pants on a regular basis. Skoldir and Derple, on the other hand, very easy to land Hammer Pants on. So now there's this little situation happening in the middle. Lightning Ball coming out to try to zone people out. Kurt going out, taking some damage. Tvong taking a ton of damage. He goes down before he can even nuke. Big Man Barbs sitting in the middle, wishing that he wasn't there. Kurt's going to go ahead and bounce away, and Big Man Barbs is going to run. So now the red team takes the middle. Kirby Derby almost losing his life when he manages to keep it together. Oh, Bowser Slave taking a bunch of damage. That stun punch proving to be a big problem. He's going to get away, though, using those handy little pads. And Kirby Derby trying to get the grapple drop, but it's not going to happen onto Kurt. Kurt's going to be perfectly fine just outside of range. So, red takes the middle, and they take the lead in terms of kills. Or at least they took it a little while ago, but now they've started to cement it. It's 3-1. They now have a 2-kill advantage, which is really good for them. Kurt taking a little bit of harassment damage from all the left-clicking coming out between Kirby Derby and the frog. Now, what's interesting is that despite all the Kirby Derbying that's going around, i.e. left-clicking and harassing as a Swiggins, Swiggins is not going for any left-click upgrades, although he is going for a couple of punches to the face, apparently. Oh, he tries to grapple in, but this might be the end of him. Oh, he gets thrown after that stun punch. Really well he put stun punch. Tvong deters the rest of the red team from coming to help out with a well-placed nuke, and the blue team is going to get out of there scot-free, and only taking a little bit of damage in the process. He's looking for Big Man Barbs, but I don't think he's going to find it. Big Man Barbs being all the way back over here, and Cannoli looking for HP, but he's not going to find it. So that leaves Bowser Slave in the middle to defend against this blue team. Now it's 3-2. The lead is not nearly so pronounced. As far as Solar goes, the blue team is ahead in Solar. That has a lot to do, I think, again, with the Solar items in place. Not all of them, however, are relying on those solar items to get that farm. What's interesting is that the person with the most amount of solar on the blue team is, in fact, Kurt, who has no solar items whatsoever. He's just got stun punch, range punch, and gnomes now. So he's going to be a very frightening force to be to deal with. Gnomes in particular are extremely strong on Skoldir because they allow him the ability to just, hey, you know what? You're being far away, you're playing cheesy and annoying, and you're not getting close to me. I'll just throw gnomes at you. That gives me the variety, the ability to attack from very distances. It's really important on a melee character to be able to have that. And going for gnomes this early and range punch was an excellent idea. So Kirby Derby is currently under a little bit of fire. He's being chased by the blue team, but the blue team not quite able to catch our aerial squid here. I think that's hilarious, by the way, the fact that every nautical character in this game can swim in one shape or form or another. Like between the squid being able to float and Vinny being able to fly. Yeah, anything that's nautical can swim in air. That's pretty cool. I just realized that. I find that pretty awesome. So Swiggins just going around left click harassing, and as I was mentioning before, he went for the grapple damage first instead of going for the left click harassment damage right off the bat. And I think that's a fine idea. It works out just fine so long as you can get the grapple without dying in the process, and that has happened once or twice. But it feels like that investment in Solar hasn't been really worth it quite yet. He's starting to go into left click damage now though. So yeah, that could be a thing. Uh-oh, Kirby Derby taking a little bit of damage. He manages to grapple Savong in place, but that's not going to do anything. Derpel doesn't care. If he's stuck in one spot, that's what he does normally. So getting grappled and anchor drops doesn't really do much for him. It's the Yuri that really needs to watch out for those grapple drops. If he gets grapple drops, that could be a huge problem for the blue team. Red team taking a little bit of harassment, running into mines. Kirby Derby runs into a trap. This might be bad for him. Savong was looking for a drop in, but he couldn't quite get it, unfortunately for him. And blue team just goes right back to controlling the middle. Oh, Earthquake coming out. Oh, wrong person there. Cannoli taking a bit of damage, but he's going to get out of there just fine. The stun punch is not quite landing. He also used dash to get away instead of attack, which is one of the reasons why dash is such a powerful ability. You can use it for multiple things, but the problem is you can only use it for one thing at a time, usually. If the opponents are really smart about it, you'll only be able to use it for one thing at a time. If you're good about it, though, if you're in excellent positioning or the enemy is in bad positioning, you can get away and deal damage and do a bunch of other stuff in one dash. And those are the dashes that can win you games. Oh, grapple coming out onto Savong. Savong getting dropped. But he doesn't care because he was in turret mode. Cannoli's just going to get away, and the rest of the red team is going to get away also. Bowser Slave taking about 1/2 of his HP and damage. Now, let's talk about some other upgrades on here. Let's maybe not talk about some other upgrades. Kirby Derby taking a nuke to the face and a bunch of punches as well. Bowser Slave now stuck in a rough position as she gets punched a bunch, and it looks like that's going to be the end of that particular skirmish. Thunder Striker Ball tossing Derpel 6 miles down over here. I have to admit, that upgrade is hilarity. It's pure hilariousness. Wow, okay, that's another thing I just noticed. Between the mines and the gnomes, the red team has a lot to worry about in this case. Like, there's a lot of just stuff that lies around on the ground and is hard to dodge on this blue team. It's impressive, actually. I hadn't quite noticed that synergy before. That was really, really neat. Just toss out gnomes, toss out mines, toss out traps, toss out earthquakes. All that stuff lingers on the ground for a couple of seconds. That's really frustrating against the team that's purely, oh, I want to go in, I want to do action, I want to jump in and make sure that they all die, and then you've got like this Derpel that says no, that'll get you killed, and you got a Scoldier that says the same. So red team at a bit of a disadvantage in terms of team makeup, I guess now. Stun punch coming out on Cannoli. Cannoli needs to be a little bit more careful, I think, especially around the Scoldier. Kurt's been doing a really good job of just being on top of waiting, being patient. He isn't just jumping into these things. He's having a good time of it. Cannoli taking a bunch of damage, but he's going to be perfectly fine, I believe. Kurt just punching away that thing, the anchor, and he's going to be able to get out of there just fine. The Bowser Slave misses his lightning ball, and Savong tries to nuke, and it doesn't hit anything. So everybody just kind of resets. Big Man Barbs putting down some mines. He's waiting for somebody to come into this middle area, which everybody knows is suicide at this point. Cannoli just spinning, and unfortunately dying. Poor guy. But the entire blue team is extremely low. Boss probably feeling extremely annoyed that everybody in that entire engagement got away. Oh, lightning ball coming out. It's going to hit Big Man Barbs. But unfortunately, he's not low enough to have it really matter. So red team does take the middle, but at what cost? One of their teammates. Uh-oh. Kurt's looking for blood. He manages to get the stun punch, but because of the anchor chain, gets swung right back into the wall and can't quite land the throw that needs to. Thunder Striker Ball coming out and telling Scoldier, no, you're not getting close to me. Oh, stun punch coming out into gnomes. Oh, Kurt's looking like he's in a lot of trouble. He takes a lightning ball. Really well placed, too. I mean, he was going down here because of the anchor, and that's difficult to predict sometimes. Savong comes out with a nuke, but it's not going to be enough. Takes a lot of damage. Thunder Striker Ball takes... Oh, wow! Anchor grapple drop as well, chaining him in place, and he just was not able to get away due to his momentum. Lightning Ball coming up, but it's going to miss Big Man Barbs, and now the first big push of the game happening on this top tower. It's going to lose about a quarter of its HP all told, and well, okay. You know what? It's not the first big push. I expected a little bit more, actually. I was expecting, you know what? Let's do this. Everybody's going to go ahead and get in there, and it's going to do a lot of damage. Instead, they dealt about a little bit more than a quarter of that thing's HP and damage. So that was the thing. Kurt doing some punches. It's going to be perfectly fine. Like everyone's going to get away just great. So Blue team's team makeup proving to be annoying, but not the only thing on the table. Cannoli taking a punch into throw, into gnome, into trap. That was literally perfect execution. That's how you stop Frog from moving right there. That was really painful. Throw coming out on Bowser Slave. Bowser Slave just going to run the other direction and then bounce on the other bounce pad. Not once, but twice. Bowser Slave getting away. It seems like, oh, Lightning Ball coming out, and now Bowser Slave is in a really tricky spot. Those stun punches completely neutering her ability to move. Well predicted by Kurt, getting that third punch to work out every time. And now it's a 3v2 advantage for the blue team. Blue team looking to get another kill here. Kirby Derby taking a lot of extra damage, and he also gets stun punched. Man, Kurt really pulling things together right here, right now. Red team, unfortunately, on the wrong side of those fists and those big, burly man Scoldier Viking arms. Lots of damage coming out of this. This is now the first big push of the game, with this bottom tower going down to about 1/3 HP. Blue team feeling really, really good about that. They actually took the lead in kills after that prolonged engagement. So they're feeling pretty good about things. Right now, items are as follows. Double damage mines, time warp on Yuri as well. So he's looking pretty good. On the the Derple, we've got triple nuke damage and some regen, as well as those deployment pads. So he's got a lot of burst potential if he can land it. On the Scoldier, Kurt, who is currently looking to get in on this. He gets an earthquake, he gets a stun punch. Swiggins goes down to a really well-placed mine. I don't know exactly how. Bowser Slave lurking to get away. Thunderstriker coming out might end up saving Bowser Slave's life, but he has to run back the other way. Bowser Slave is going to be able to jump, and unfortunately it's off the wrong bouncer, but no one else can really jump and catch up, so everyone else manages to get away. Cannoli manages to also get away, teleporting in the other direction as everyone chases after an uncatchable Coco. So that was risky. Unfortunately, Swiggins gets caught out, but everybody else on the red team does manage to make it out, which should make them at least moderately happy that it could have been worse. Bowser Slave managing to get away. Savong's nuke, not going to hit anybody, but that bottom turret is going to look like it's taking some trouble. Cannoli actually ends up taking a kill off of the blue team. Kurt was a little in the wrong place at the wrong time, apparently, and Cannoli is just looking for a way over. He times his jump, he gets over, and everything's going to be fine. Swiggins does more of the same, and now it's a 3v2 advantage for the red team for a little while, as Kirby Derby goes in and does a little bit of harassment on this tower. That's one thing that Swiggins can do, is just toss out an anchor and then just shoot at the tower for a couple of seconds while the turret deals with the anchor. So you can just, you know, no risk, backdoor a little bit, and that's all good. Every little bit of damage helps. Lightning Ball coming out, but it's tickling at this point, despite the fact that there are a couple of voltage amplifier upgrades. This other team is incredibly tanky. Kirby Derby taking a throw, taking a couple of punches to the face, and he's going to go down. If it wasn't going to be that, it was going to be the worm, but it's going to end up being a fist in this case. Savong looking to catch up to some people, but nothing's really going to happen. Cannoli going up here and picking up some HP. Bowser Slave is going to get away off of the bottom lane, and the blue team now looking like they're back in place. They have the middle, or access to the middle again. Yuri actually taking a bunch of extra harassment from this frog. The frog going for Baby Curry Mammoth. As you guys know, this is a 2.6 game. You can buy stuff whenever you want now, whatever you want in the game. Up to 3 upgrades per row. This bottom turret now taking a bunch of extra damage. It's going to end up going down. Kurt gets Lightning Ball, but the wrong way. Bowser Slave gets caught out. So does Kurt, though. So it's going to be a 1-for-1 trade right there. Cannoli going to pick off Kurt, and Bowser Slave going down to a combination of mines and cats. So everything going back to the way things sort of were, except for now the state of the game is very different. We've got 1 turret down for the red team. Blue team sitting pretty on 2. Super Droid coming in on the bottom end here. That Super Droid might not last long, very long though. Kirby Derby going in for some harassment on this top tower. Where are Big Bowser Man's teammates? Well, one of his teammates was disconnecting for a second there, so that explains why he was a little bit late to the party. Cannoli putting out some damage on here, and then instantly dashing away the instant he saw some of his the blue friends come by. He does not want to get caught out by traps and terribleness ever again. Like, Scoldier is being such a big pain in the butt. Speaking of Scoldier being a big pain in the butt, he's managed to pick up Electric Hammer. So Kurt going for the CC route, which is really, really strong against this team makeup on the other side. Because if you manage to stop the other team from moving, they're going to end up dying. Cannoli manages to dash under the worm. A very clean getaway. Well played. Kurt coming in at the wrong place at the wrong time, though. Good Lightning Ball, but he does manage to pick up a kill. He ends up dying to blaze damage. That was simultaneously the most fortunate and most unfortunate Lightning Ball I have ever seen, Bowser Slave. Kudos to you for that particular record. That was entertaining. Bowser Slave ending up picking up some extra solar, and the red team goes right back to farming. Currently in the lead, blue team at 10 kills, and red team's only slightly lagging behind at 8. On top of that, solar-wise, they're actually relatively equal with the exception of Yuri and Skoldir, who have managed to pull ahead into the 2,000 range. Yuri pulling at 2,400, Skoldir pulling at 2,200. The other team struggling at 1,900, 1,600, 1,930, and Durple being the only one in that range as well. Unfortunately, Swiggins is really far behind, and he's having the hardest time of all, just because he's got a very difficult time farming as a character. I find a lot of the time his damage is a little substandard in terms of being able to just spam abilities and get solar. And on top of that, he picked up no solar items in order to go for that late game. So maybe that's what they're playing at here. Although Kurt going in for an earthquake, into some punching, into some mines, into some nukes, and that's the end of Bowser's Slave, who got caught up by that throw, especially the throw, and then a time bubble to follow up afterwards. As things stand right now, red team looking like they're in the roughest spot out of the bunch, because of the, I would say that probably the Swiggins is unfortunately the weakest part of their team. Not in terms of play, but in terms of the pick. Just the other team doesn't care about being grappled too hard because they're all fairly tanky. They all don't mind having someone come up in their face. But more importantly, they all have abilities to CC the entire red team. Kurt on his own can put out enough like disable and just movement impairment that it's unreal. It's painful for the entirety of the red team. Double-sided snare quakes, I believe, are going to be the next thing that comes out of him. At least that's what I would expect. But we shall see what Kurt believes is the right choice. Speaking of Kurt and the entirety of the blue team, they are down here with Yuri, arguably one of the strongest late-game characters in the game, who's now picking up time bubble and everything else. And they're looking to be pushing really, really well. Now, that's the other thing. The blue team normally wouldn't be pushing very well if it wasn't for the fact that they had time bubble. And there's exactly what I'm talking about. Kirby Derby coming in with a grapple. He's going to end up dying almost immediately to a nuke, to punching, to gnomes, to everything. And it wasn't, again, it's just, that's what his character does. Poor Kirby Derby just can't really do very much about it because anything that he tries to do with one of his abilities, if not both of them, is practically useless. So, unfortunately, it looks like this is a match that got determined by picks in the early game, and then excellent play on both teams, just kind of making the picks a very pronounced thing. Like, if you hadn't noticed, Kirby Derby's just been unfortunately relegated to I'm gonna sit back and shoot ink at stuff. Gnomes coming out, doing some harassment, Cats doing the same deal. Speaking of which, does Durple have any cat upgrades? He does, picking up the kitty cat suits, and now they deal a bit of extra damage. And yeah, that's just slowly chipping away at that turret. That's the last turret on the red team. Once this goes, it's all done. Kirby Derby getting caught out by a stun punch and a snare and another stun punch. But Kurt going down first. Kirby Derby looking to get away from here, or at least maybe put out some extra damage. The grapple doesn't hit, though! The grapple doesn't hit! If only that had hit, that would have been a dead Savong and an alive Kirby Derby. Oh, that was so close, so unfortunate. But still, 2-for-1 trade. Things looking like things might be back in the red court here. They might be able to actually get a push on this, so long as Yuri doesn't come in with a mind bomb like that. Okay. But even with that, they might be able to backdoor this turret, as Yuri's left-click damage is not as strong as his 70 damage mines. Correction, 65 damage mines. He has not picked up all the damage upgrades for that ability yet. He has picked up heal and time war bubble, however, which means it's a very strong pushing time bubble. It's a really, that's actually one of the most powerful pushing abilities in the game, I would argue. Just because, hey, look, let's heal our creep wave at the same time that they're getting the natural regen, at the same time that they're having shields and everything underneath your turret. My teammates, like Skoldir, for instance, who can't push well, are now doing an inordinate amount of damage thanks to the time speed up. Like, even Durple can push pretty well at that point. Despite that, all of his shots do a fraction of the damage that they normally would against the tower. Cannoli taking a bunch of extra damage. He actually waits in like the shadows and does the dash combo, and then just immediately leaves. Savong taking that damage, and despite that whole combo coming out there, Savong only took a little bit of damage. Lightning Ball dealing about the same amount in one hit. So I can only imagine the dash is the only thing that really hit. Lightning Ball coming out, it's going to miss. Kurt looking for a kill on Kirby Derby. Kirby Derby going to manage to get away, but he comes back in. Cannoli gets tossed out and gets tapped out by the gnomes. Oh, big man Barbs is going to get away just. Bowser Slave getting punched to death, but he's going to actually get away thanks to Blaze. Kurt now taking a ton of damage from Blaze and everything else put together. Savong gets anchored from a barely alive Kirby Derby who manages to get away from all this. So, a 1-for-0 pick-off for the blue team, which is looking really good for them. They can now get themselves in a position where they are much better off, where they can keep the lanes towards the opponent tower and eventually just chip away at that tower again. But they're just waiting for it right now. They haven't found that opening. As soon as they find that opening, though, they're going to go for it, and then that's the end of the game. At least that's their idea here. Meanwhile, Team Boss, it's the opposite idea. Let's keep everybody kind of out in the open where we can pick them off one by one. If one of them gets out of place, we'll look for that pick off and catch them. Cannoli almost managing to pick off Savong there with a dash, but not entirely pick off. Just, you know, get him isolated, as it were. And unfortunately, for Cannoli, Savong manages to dodge that stuff. So right now, Team Boss, again, they're on their back foot. They're on their back foot against one character who is particularly strong late game, but two characters whose early game are really their strongest strengths, early mid game. And Durple in particular, even though he can get Catling Gun, is fairly frail. Like, he's effective throughout the match, but he's not as strong as, say, Frog or Coco, I would argue. So, who knows? This could still go either way. I believe Kurt taking much damage, but he's just going to whip Cannoli in the other direction. Bowser Slave looking for a way out. He's going to end up going down to punches and earthquake damage. Cannoli looking for some extra damage on Kurt. Kurt's going to get away. Cannoli has to run away as well, though. Kurt does not get away at the end of the deal, and neither does Cannoli. Big Man Barb's going upstairs to take out the Frog, and Kurt getting picked off by a grapple drop. So, well played by both teams. Unfortunately for Boss, and fortunately for Team IWTN. I'm going to have so much fun saying that throughout this series. Unfortunately for Team IWTN, they managed to get a 2-1 pickoff, and they should be able to cement a small lead / be able to go home and shop safely for the next little while. Savong looking for a drop in on Kirby Derby, but he unfortunately was just a little bit late to the party. Not his fault. Swiggins just went back home. They decided, I'm going to go back home, and Savong, it's difficult to predict dropping down on this map, but there you have it. Unfortunately, it was just a little bit late, and Swiggins does not end up dying. Bowser Slave going down there to go ahead and pick up some creep kills. Kirby Derby, what are you doing? He's over here. He took a mine to the face. They have now surrounded the blue team. The blue team looking like they're in a rough spot. Savong goes in and out of siege mode. Siege mode being the most important part of all this. Savong does out another one. Kurt comes in from the other side, though, and chases Cannoli and Kirby Derby away. Speaking of Kirby Derby, he gets whipped in one direction, and he's running his squiddy little legs off. And is he going to be able to make it away? Oh, he's trying. He's just going to get away. Literally just. That was super close, but well played by the Swiggins. Kirby Derby doing a really good job of predicting exactly how long it would take for the other team to get to him and stop him from teleporting and being just that little step ahead. Literally one little tentacly step ahead. Dash coming out on two people. That's a lot of extra damage that it shouldn't necessarily have hit. Savong putting out the nuke. Is it going to hit anything? No, it's not. Kirby Derby is going to get away. Bowser Slave putting out a lightning ball. We've got Big Man Barbs, who's now running away from the rest of the team, who is looking to chase him down. Cannoli wants to go in, but he saw that trap and said, you know what? No, screw that. Kirby Derby doing roughly the same deal. So both teams just kind of bounce off each other and then go right back to it. Yuri sitting really pretty right now. He's got almost all of his upgrades. He's almost maxed out. Skoldir now picking up, yeah, he's got Axe Throwing Trophy, as I imagined he would. He also has access to Salted Mead, so he's got extra damage punches. He hasn't put any more upgrades into Earthquake yet, which I find interesting. But he's doing a lot of extra damage, and maybe that's what they need. They just want to get one good push off, and with those fists and all that damage, and hopefully there'll be enough. Bowser Slave looking like he's going to die to dot damage. Really, really, really painful dot damage while we're at it. Gnome tries to come out. Kurt dealing a bunch of damage. Kirby Derby putting out the damage in return. Savong puts out a nuke, though, to deter Kirby Derby from coming back in there. And things are looking pretty grim right now for the red team. Team Boss now on their back foot. They're back at their turret, which they do not want to be. However, it's not going to last for very long. Blue team goes right back to pushing up their lane creeps forward as they were kind of waiting for them and just tanking the turret in the meantime. And that's probably a recipe for disaster. You don't want to get too overconfident. Kurt going for the long-range throw instead of the close range, I want to throw you backwards. Just tries to toss out in the gnome. Cannoli managing to dodge almost everything that's being put out. Nuke comes out. It's going to end up hitting all of the creeps. Really funny little placement of the nuke there. It wasn't just, just a little quirk of the AI. Lightning Ball comes out. It's going to hit nothing, unfortunately, and the creep wave advances. The final turret goes down, and Team IWTN looking like they're going to take this first match of the series. But that's not necessarily going to be the case. If Team Red, Team Boss, manages to pull off a really good wipe here, they could easily push down everything that Team Blue has been fighting to keep standing. So we shall see if anything happens. Nuke comes out. It's going to hit the core. It has now been bloodied for the first time. Lots of droids coming up, but they're just going to feed the red team. And the red team, Team Boss, now looking, hey, you know what? Let's get out there. Let's get some space. Speaking of space, The one thing that they're not going to have very much of it now is, well, space, unfortunately, because Kurt picks up the couch upgrade on Earthquake. Couch upgrade meaning length. So that Earthquake now goes for years. Well, that's actually not a measurement of distance. It's a measurement of time. So it goes for miles now, that Earthquake. He butt slams the ground so hard, it creates ripples for, like, the entire screen. It's impressive, actually, just how big-boned Skoldir is. Cannoli comes out with a dash. Unfortunately, it's not going to be enough. He takes a mine to the face as well, and the red team probably going to go ahead and just play harassment at this point. Kurt looking for an opening. I guess he's going to go right back down then. Savong going to come up here. He's just going to lay down traps as per his usual. Cannoli going upstairs. And everyone's just kind of dancing around each other now. It's like, who will make the first move? And it looks like it's going to be Kurt. He manages to get a stun punch. He tries to go for the throw, but it's not going to end up hitting anything. Bowser Slave now in a rough spot. Going for Thunder Striker, going for Blaze. Kurt maybe now in the rougher spot as he bounces away. He gets dashed by Cannoli. He's now going the other way back to his friends. Earthquake comes out. It's going to end up hitting no one, unfortunately, for them. Oh, heal bubble coming out. It's not going to be a lot of heal, but it was almost enough to keep Kurt alive. But all that damage was just too much. Big man Barbs goes down. Wow. I want an instant replay of that. Let's watch that one more time. Holy crap. Please. I want to see this. That was... What was that? What was that? Okay, so Kurt goes down. We got Cannoli coming in for the dash. Savong, really low, gets lightning balled. So really it's just big man barbs, and then everybody dies. That was crazy. That was a wipe I was not expecting to happen ever. So now the red team, although beaten and battered and really low on HP, they're going for it. They're going for as much damage as they possibly can do, despite the circumstances. If only they had a little bit more HP to do this, this would have been an easy turret. But it looks like at the moment, things are going to stay the way they are as they pick up some HP, claim the solar that they can, and go for the little bit of damage that they can. Kirby Derby in particular able to do at least a moderate amount, taking out 2 bars on his own. Bowser Slave going for a bunch of extra tanking. And yeah, it's going to be that, unfortunately, for the red team. So now that the entirety of the blue team is back, they're going to aim not to make that same mistake twice. But that was a really impressive wipe. All things considered, if Team Boss can pull that off 1 or 2 more times, that could be an impressive way to win. But as it stands, that's going to be a really uphill battle. Because Team IWTN, team insert witty name here, is playing extremely well. They have an extremely large lead over the other team. But as they become maxed out, that lead is going to become less and less pronounced until everybody's on equal footing. And at that point, it's going to be pure skill that plays out and pure picks. Kurt going for a throw, but he's not going to end up getting it. Holy crap! Dash onto 2 people. Big Man Barbs is going to run away as well, but Cannoli wises up and decides to get away. Kurt gets chased, but he's not going to end up dying. Oh, Kirby Derby. Getting a little bit of harassment from Savong. Team Man Barbs. Big Man Barbs goes down to a good grapple into Lightning Ball situation. And that's a 3v2 advantage now with, I would argue, one of the backbones of this team. Durple, obviously very important for defensive situations, but Yuri, one of the main characters in terms of just making stuff happen. Although after seeing this game happen, I'm willing to say that Skoldir is probably the big backbone in this team makeup. I really should have thought of that first. Throw being like one of the key factors to their team's success so far, and Yuri unfortunately going down was just enough that they couldn't defend that tower. So now it is 3v2. Yuri's dropping back down. Team Boss looking good. I can't even look at upgrades because there's so many of them. Like, this game has been going for 32 minutes. Oh, Kurt comes in with a throw. It's going to end up hitting Kirby Derby, but Kurt also goes and takes a bunch of the extra damage. Bowser Slave ended up almost dying. Savong gets disconnected. And are, very gentlemanly. They do not go after Savong. They do not try to deal him a bunch of extra damage for no reason at all. He's having a little hard time staying connected. But that's another good kill. Taking out Kurt. Taking out their offensive backbone. So, Team Boss now looking like they can kind of, sort of, sit pretty and relax for a little bit as they pick up a little bit of farm, push the lanes forward, and start supporting their Super Droid push. Lightning Ball coming out. It's going to hit Savong. Big Man Barb's going to go ahead and deal with that Super Droid really, really easily. In fact, at this stage in the game, although they do deal a significant amount of damage, 40 damage in a fairly large AoE, they do go down fairly easily just due to the sheer number of upgrades that all the Awesomenauts have at this point. So at this stage in the game, things have not completely turned around, but there's only 1 turret left for the blue team, and if there's another wipe that happens in favor of Team Boss, things are looking pretty bad. This was entirely in Team IWTN's corner. This was all in their side, and unfortunately, they've had a really hard time executing the winning strategy that they've had the rest of this game so far for the past couple of minutes. So who knows? Maybe they can pull it back together, but things are looking a little rough. Canoli picked up Twister Tweeters at some point, so now his NATO is really good at initiating and doing a bunch of different things. Holy crap, look at the size of those ink shots. Kurt gets lightning balled, he gets grapple dropped, but he's going to end up being fine. He takes a little bit more extra damage from the from the anchor drop breaking, from the chain breaking. And blue team ended up taking a little, like about a third of their HP each in that little engagement. With that in mind, everyone's going to go back, everyone's going to heal, everyone's going to defend, and Team Boss is slowly, very slowly, going to advance up here. 2 members of Team Blue right here. Is anyone going to go around and flank? It doesn't seem like it. Everyone's down here defending. Suvan gets lightning balled, unfortunately, the wrong time, but a nuke comes out. It's going to hit Canoli. Canoli's going to run away for his life at this point. Grapple drop coming out. Kirby Derby, he gets thrown right back into the turret, and he's going to end up dying. Bowser Slave now running for his life as Team Blue finally manages to get off the execution that they wanted, despite the fact that Savan got lightning balled into the wrong spot. That throw on Kirby Derby solidified that man's death. And now the entirety of Team IWTN is going to go in and is going to try to take out the last bastion of the red base, the core. Lightning ball comes out. It's going to force Kurt to not be able to get that throw punch off on anybody. Earthquake comes out. It's just too slow to be able to catch up to anyone. With the throw upgrade, with the axe throwing trophy, those gnomes can go a fair distance, but also just out of range. Team Boss looking to play very, very safe right now. Although, right now, Canoli looking like he might be in a bit of trouble. He's kind of caught on the wrong side here. But it might be the right side in the long run if Kirby Derby can come in with Bowser Slave and do a bit of extra support. If Canoli can come in on the side. But he ends up going up top. Nuke comes out. Is going to hit anything. It's going to hit creeps in the core. And then the blue team just runs away because they know how quickly something can turn around on them with all the burst damage that the red team has. And that is the one thing, the biggest thing that red team has, is that every one of their characters can deal a significant amount of damage in an extremely short amount of time. The only person who is extremely capable of doing that on the blue team really is Durple with his massive nuke. Yuri can do it with his mines, but they have to be very close to do it. And Skoldir can help accentuate the mines and traps and everything, but he's an enabler, really. He's the guy that everyone goes to just make them better. And they're looking for a way in. They're chipping away at this core. They've got mines, they've got traps, they've got everything everywhere. Kurt looking for an earthquake. It's going to end up hitting Canoli briefly. A grapple drop, not going to end up... Oh, throw upstairs. Kirby Derby's just going to end up picking that HP. Well, meanwhile, while they're gone, red team... Uh-oh. Canoli comes in. He's going to deal a dash, but he's going to get really badly punched and hurt and thrown, and he does... Oh my god, he's dodging everything! Oh, he didn't dodge the cats, though. He ends up going down, unfortunately, for him. Kirby Derby now running for his life. He almost got stuck in a trap there, but it didn't quite happen. The throw not quite managing to land on him either. Bowser Slave now looking to put out some damage with his lightning ball, but that is going to start hurting. See what I mean, though? Time bubble. The characters that are really bad at pushing are still able to push because they just attack so fast. Bowser Slave taking a bunch of extra damage, and he's going to go down to mines and everything else, and the punching and the pain. And Kirby Derby now looking to try to stop this, but there's no way. With all those droids on the base, that was the end of the game. So Team IWTN taking the first game of this series in what was a very interesting game. That almost completely turned around on them. If it wasn't for that one fight near their turret right over here where Kirby Derby got thrown in, they would not have gotten the ground that they needed to be able to push back out again. So that was really well played by both teams. That was an extremely exciting game. Came down to picks, really, because unfortunately Swiggins just unable to do very much against that entire other team. Frog at least can dash through the majority of it. Swiggins, he's so vulnerable when he goes in and initiates a fight, and against that team there is nothing he could really do. So, well played by both teams. I can't wait to see what happens in the next match in the series. You guys stay tuned, and I'll see you guys in that game.